Just first and foremost, what are your priorities as mayor and police commissioner going into those negotiations?
Writ large, my priority is to make sure that we have civilian oversight and accountability of the Portland Police Bureau. That's what's assumed in the city charter, that at the end of the day, the elected officials who report to the public and the police chief would have that authority. Unfortunately, what happened over a series of many years is the Portland City Council has ceded authority to the Portland Police Association through collective bargaining. And so my colleagues in the City Council and I are unified that we want to start bringing some of that authority around accountability and oversight back to civilian leadership.
Granted, the negotiations have yet to start, but the president told me that already exists by virtue of the independent police review, and that therefore, essentially, the status quo is sufficient when it comes to public transparency and public involvement in officers who are reprimanded. So it seemed like he was ready to kind of draw the line and hold that line. What's your take? I mean, how hard of a line would you draw on that? And how hard do you think the city would be willing to fight to kind of bring the public into that process?
I respectfully disagree with the characterization that we already have that. And I could point to very specific examples over the last 15 to 20 years where mayors and police chiefs have fired officers for misconduct. And then after going through the process dictated through our collective bargaining agreement, those same officers are brought back to the police bureau. And so at the end of the day, if the mayor and the police chief fire somebody for misconduct, I believe that firing should hold, and it doesn't. Therefore, I would strongly disagree with the contention that we already have strong civilian oversight over the bureau. We just flat out don't.
He made a bit of an exception, and in the state of Oregon, if an officer is fired, as you know, they are decertified and their name is put on a list. We're kind of, I think, and I should be clear, we're speaking more to those who are reprimanded. And the head of IPR told me months ago, you will almost never hear about that. A lot of those cases will never be made public because of a couple of state statutes and because of a specific clause in the police union contract about the punishment being doled out in the way that is least embarrassing to the officer. So when it comes to specifically to those who are reprimanded, specifically in cases where maybe it was rather public what happened, or regardless, members of the public were traumatized or involved in it, should those be made public?
You know, the question about whether or not smaller offenses should be made public, that's an open question. I will tell you, however, the embarrassment clause needs to go away. The embarrassment clause is ridiculous on its face. When you discipline somebody, it is inherently embarrassing. That's just the way it is. And so I honestly don't know how that embarrassment clause ever made it into a contract, but it should go away. Discipline can be seen as embarrassing, but discipline can also be an opportunity to improve somebody and evolve themselves as a leader in the Portland Police Bureau. We discipline people throughout all of our city bureaus on a regular basis. And I'm sorry if it's embarrassing. That's just the way discipline works. So that's my viewpoint on it. I think we should get rid of the clause that relates to minimizing embarrassment.
Great. I'm allocating.
That's also a very subjective value, by the way. What's embarrassing to one person may not be embarrassing to another person.